Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our current DGRE partners, as well as our future DGRE partners. Probably most of you on the call are familiar with us, but those of you who are not, and this may be your first time visiting with us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We hope you find the presentation informational and helpful to you as to what we do and how we help our partners. So, welcome to the October DGRE monthly meeting. The entire team here at DGRE really appreciate you spending a portion of your Tuesday evening with us. We do know that you have a choice, and we're very grateful for your trust in us and joining us this evening. You know, we hold these monthly meetings for really two main reasons. The first is because we want to keep our family of partners updated on current investments. And then two, because we also want to hear from you. So I would encourage you as we progress through this presentation, please feel free to type in any questions that you might have in the chat box, and we will do our level best to address those in the Q&A session at the end of our presentation. So without further delay, let's review our agenda for this evening. First, we have an announcement. I want to issue some congratulations to some people that I'm sure are on this call. Next, we're going to talk about eviction update, and there's just been so much information and so many changes in regarding the eviction procedures that we have to follow on the properties that I thought tonight would be a good idea while we got a lot of people here to just give you an update on that current process, where we are, what it means for performance, and how we're addressing as a management company. Then we're going to talk about, go through property by property, and we're going to talk about our portfolio performances for each of those properties and just give you some key performance indicators that we feel give you a good picture of how the property is performing. As part of that, and as always, one of the funnest parts of our meeting is we're going to talk about portfolio property distributions, or what we lovingly call mailbox money. It may be direct deposited to you, or you may get it in the mailbox. But either way, it's a good thing to get, and we're glad to be able to send it out to you. Last but not least, I'm gonna ask Darwin to jump in, and we're gonna talk about what's on the horizon for Darwin German Real Estate, because we have some additional opportunities. We'll certainly have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So let's get started. First thing I want to say is just congratulations. For those of you who don't know, but the Corners was closed on September 30th. The Corners was our most recent acquisition located in DeSoto, Texas, just across the street from Riverbend. It was a very smooth closing. It was one of those where everything went just like it was designed to go. The previous management company was very good to work with. We had our ducks in a row. They had their ducks in a row. The lenders had their ducks in a row. And we closed right on time, September 30th, and the Dorcorp team is excited to be on site. One of the things I'll point out is that this opportunity was fully funded by DGRE partners in just 48 hours. So we know that that provides, for example, there may be some of you on this call who really tried to get into the Corners. This was a 506B offering that was open up to everyone, but because of the great demand, it literally closed in just 48 hours. So we recognize the fact that some of you that tried to get in may not have been able to get in. Okay, my apologies. Here we are. We're just pick it right back from where we left off. Just again, congratulations for those of you who were able to get in on the Corners that closed on September 30th. And as you see here, it closed in just 48 hours. And we understand there's a pent-up demand. So please stay with us, because as we talk about what's on the horizon for Darwin German Real Estate here at the end of this presentation, we have some really good news. For those of you who were not able to get in the Corners, there are some additional opportunities coming. So stay with us, and we'll move on then without further delay. So the first thing we want to talk about is the eviction process update. And again, just to give you a little back history, as of today, the Texas Supreme Court has issued 29 emergency orders related to the eviction process and the COVID pandemic. First of all, I'll just remind everyone that the CARES Act, which was enacted in late March, prevented properties from charging late fees and from filing eviction on tenants for non-payment of rent. That was a 4-month moratorium where literally we could not charge late fees, could not evict for any reason, or I'm sorry, could not evict for non-payment of rent. The CARES Act expired on July 25th, and at that point we were we were able to and started providing 30 and or 60-day notices issued to those tenants who were not in compliance and not paying their rent. The 30 or 60 days just depended on the municipality. For example, the city of Dallas required a 60-day notice as opposed to a 30-day notice. But as I said, the CARES Act expired on July 25th. And that took us into late August, early September. And then on September 4th, and a declaration came out from the Centers for Disease Control called the CDC Declaration, and it also provided protection from eviction if a resident filed a CDC declaration form. There were really 5 main criteria that people had to meet in order to file the CDC declaration form. The CDC declaration is a little bit different than the CARES Act in that it did not prevent the property from charging late fees and or making attempts to collect rent. It did provide protection from them if we were to file eviction. We could not move forward with that if they did provide a CDC declaration form, but a little bit different. The resident had to attest under penalty of perjury that they would make a good faith effort to make payments each month. So that's kind of it in a nutshell with the CDC declaration. Believe it or not, the last order, which came out just last week, which was the 29th emergency order, is what's called the EDP, or the Eviction Diversion Program. This actually does not take effect until next Monday, the 12th of October. But what this does is essentially allow a resident or a tenant to, again, claim hardship, and it only applies if both parties agree. So at the court hearing, the judge absolutely will ask the resident and the property manager if they wish to participate in the EDP. If both parties agree, the resident will have up to 60 days to apply for and possibly receive state-provided assistance. What is happening in the state of Texas, for example, they're just redirecting a lot of the money that they got, the stimulus money that they got from the federal government back in April. They're redirecting that to rental assistance to people who may need it. In all honesty, I'll just remind you that the people that we're moving forward with evictions are people, for the vast majority, have not paid rent to us since March. They are people who have not made any attempt to pay. We have offered payment plans. As you know, we have offered 50% off. We have worked with them, bent over backwards. So DARCorp will not choose to participate with any resident that has made no previous attempt to work with us in regards to the eviction diversion program. And again, both parties have to agree or they cannot move forward with that. So just to give you kind of in a nutshell, as of October 6th, which is today, the DGRE portfolio has filed 30 evictions. 23 were adjudicated in our favor. So that's a really good percentage and we're thrilled with that. 2 were abated, which just means that we did not dismiss the case, but they filed a CDC declaration form and the case is abated, which means it stays on the docket and we are free to refile that at any time if the tenant absolutely does not make a good faith effort to pay us moving forward. The other 5 claim CDC protection, but have not yet provided the CDC declaration form, and the judge is giving them a little more time to get that together. Okay, let's move right into our DGRE portfolio updates. And I'm just going to go in alphabetical order, and I'm just going to hit the high points here to be sensitive of everyone's time. These key performance indicators go from June the 1st through the end of September and are pretty up-to-date numbers. As you know, we have not finalized September financials, but these are really close numbers. They may change just a bit when we do this again next month, but again, they're really close. Amber Vista, as you can see, taking a slight dip in occupancy, but our income is holding steady. So we're in the mid 100s, going back through June, 108, 106, 104, and 105. As we saw just a slight dip in August and September, you can see that we managed the expenses accordingly to ensure that our net operating income remained healthy, as you can see here. One of the things I'll point out, I've also included on all of these slides, rent delinquency. This is current month rent delinquency. So you can see in June, we had about $8,800 that was not paid. In July, $49. You move on to September, there's still about $5,100 that's not out there. So just keep that in mind as we go through. If we were able to collect that rent delinquency at the normal rate we collect, you can see what that would do to the income numbers and we'd be in a much better position. But again, still very healthy, still very good numbers. One note I have on Amber Vista is that we had an illegal dumping problem at Amber Vista. So we built a new dumpster enclosure, added additional lighting, and some warning signs to offenders and violators so we can try and clean up that problem that we were having there. Brookside. I'm going to give you a little bit more insight on Brookside, but as you can see from June through August, just a steady increase in income. You can see a dip in September. It's not a dip in really not a big dip in occupancy, but again, I'll draw your eyes down to the rent delinquency, and it's certainly no secret that as rent delinquency increases, your income tends to take a dip. But as you can also see, we managed expenses accordingly and had a dip in income, so we managed expenses to make sure that we kept that net operating income healthy again in the mid 130s. One note on Brookside is that we experienced a small fire in one of the units. However, the fire was, again, very small, was contained just to the kitchen area of the unit, and repairs are underway, so no major damages there. One of the things I'm going to point out on Brookside, and this is really true for at least a couple of properties, and I'll summarize it in the end too, but I want you to know that Brookside is one of them that we actually have organized efforts on the property. And when I say that, they're organized efforts from not friendly organized efforts, but these are either attorney groups or other residents who may live there or other residents who are just getting involved. And they are making an effort to go around and tell other tenants that live in Brookside that they do not have to pay their rent, that we will not be able to evict them. These people, obviously, as you know, are misinformed, and we are sending a very strong message. But we do attribute some of our September slippage in income, we attribute to that, as some people are just under misguided information and chose not to pay their rent in September. We're making very strong efforts early in October to re-educate them on the process by sending a very strong message with evictions, notice to vacate, you name it, we'll follow up and continue that process. The Crossing, again, you can just see Crossings is just a steady performer. Mid to high occupancy in the 90s, income in the low to mid 100s, expenses holding steady, in the 60 to low 60 range, net operating income again in the mid 40s. Great job by the Crossing staff, and they were able to close June and August with zero delinquency, and that is during the COVID pandemic. So it's just kudos to them. Had some outstanding in July, and again, a little bit more in September. And we do believe, again, some of that is just attributed to some people under the impression that they do not have to pay and that we cannot evict. But we have sent a letter and let them know of our rights, and we will fully pursue that. Gold Creek, acquired back in February of 2020. Really kind of see a same pattern here. June, July, and August, just steady, steady, steady. We did take a dip in September. This one was for a different reason. This one was really, if you look down and look at the rent delinquency, you can see that even though we took a dip in income in September, we closed out the month with zero delinquency. So again, great job by the staff there. But what that indicates is that we have a slippage in occupancy there. And as you can see, we went from 97 to 94%. We're really trying to hold tight on the prices that we're charging there. We're not finding an issue with new leases. People are coming in and they recognize the property and its amenities and the great shape that it's in. So we're getting the prices we're looking for with new leases. What we have is just a slight issue with closing the back door on renewals. But we think we've got a good grasp on that, handle with that, as people burning off previous concessions, and as we're having some slippage there because people are seeing that they're no longer going to get the $200 concession and rents have gone up. One other thing to note on Gold Creek as well is that that tends to be a higher end clientele. And one of the things we're noticing too is that with the interest rate situation as it is, many of those that have moved out, which is not a lot, but some of those that have moved out are now finding it easier to qualify for home purchases. So that's the other reason we've had a slight dip in our occupancy. But again, you can see the net operating income through managing expenses properly. Our net operating income remains very, very healthy, and in fact was highest as it's ever been in the month of September. And again, great kudos to the Gold Creek staff who was able to close September at zero delinquency. Really great news for Halinani and Kanani, but I'll do Halinani first. As you know, through April through July, we saw a downward trend for Halinani due to the COVID situation in Miami. The tourism industry was practically shut down, causing job losses and the inability to pay rent. Happy to note that August and September, as you can see, saw tremendous improvement with the ability to remove those non-paying tenants and move in new tenants. You can see that in August and September, we're back to 100% occupancy, which certainly meant good news for income back over 18,000 and expenses back in the range where we would expect them with a healthy NOI in the mid-teens. So really great news for Halinani. And really, this is just a carbon copy for Kanani. As you know, they are right next to each other. Same exact situation, downward trend from April through July due to the tourism industry shutdown. But August and September, as you can see, back to 100% occupancy. Income's now well over 23,000 for the month of September. Again, properly managing expenses with our net operating income back into the high teens. So again, really great news for Halinani and Kanani, tremendous turnarounds there once we were able to remove those non-paying tenants and get new tenants in. Ridgemar Plaza. Again, it's just, occupancy low to mid 90s, even high 90s as we speak. Income, you can see, was down in the low 40s in June and July, as again, you look down there at your rent delinquency. Your rent delinquency contributed to that because we just could not collect that rent. We could not evict. No late fees, you name it. Lots of reasons there that all go together. But if you see, we did not have a meeting in August, so you have not seen these numbers since July. But August and September, really nice rebounds, over 51 in income in August, a little over 47 in September. Expenses managed properly, getting our net operating income back into the high teens. And we anticipate getting that into the low 20s here really soon. And again, you can see direct correlation with as the delinquency drops, then our income goes up as well. With the recent completion of the parking lot repairs, landing repairs, and the gate repairs, the initial CapEx plan at Ridgemar has now been completed. Moving on to Riverbend, just steady performance here. Occupancy in the mid to high 90s. Income, again, you saw a steady trend up from June into July, even through August. We did take a dip in September. And as you can see, that's due to another significant rent delinquent month. That is the property, as we've talked about in months previous, that is the property where we have the biggest issue with the monthly rent being paid. Some of it is not paid. A lot of our tenants wait till the last week to pay. Most of them do, obviously, good for us and good for everybody. But through proper management of expenses, really healthy net operating income in the low 70s. Riverbend is one I want to point out too. It was the other property I spoke about when I mentioned at Brookside. There is an organized effort there by some tenants who have gone around and tried to, and they've knocked on every door, talked to tenants, tell them they do not have to pay rent. We can't do anything about it. They are misinformed, and I'm glad to report to you that we sent a very strong message last week. We not only, I told you early up, we had the 30 evictions, 12 of those were at Riverbend. And we were able to win 6 of those. And those 6 people, the process worked just like it was supposed to work. And the constable came. We set out 6 of those tenants. And we saw a noticeable difference in the attitude on the property. And that when they saw that, oh, they can evict and they can move out and the courts are going to follow the law, then we believe a really strong message was sent to those tenants at Riverbend. But despite all of that, income has remained very, very good, almost at 170. And again, you see the expenses in the mid 80s with a low to mid 70s net operating income. So nothing but good news there. Silver Creek. Those of you who have been part of these meetings in the past know that there's been a steady incline in the income, and we're just absolutely thrilled. In June, we're over the 300 mark. July, right at 300. August, 300, just slightly under in September. Occupancy remains strong. We did make an effort to control expenses so that we could keep a healthy net operating income. But again, I would just point out to you that bottom line there, rent delinquency, and just Normally on our properties, we collect all but about, if we can get below 2% on our properties in delinquency collections, we're really happy with that. I mean, 1 is great. But as you can see, I just ask you to look at that top income number and then look at the rent delinquency number. And if you added, say, 90% of that rent delinquency to that number, then it would give you a good idea where the income would be at Silver Creek if we could collect that. And of course, up to this point, it has been mostly because we could not evict through the CARES Act, then dealing with the CDC declaration. We are moving forward with that now. We do have 5 tenants at Silver Creek who have provided the CDC declaration form, so we're going to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're making a good faith effort each month. Just a reminder too that as you know, we had 2 different levels of interior rehabs at Silver Creek, and that was the gold to the platinum level as well as the bronze to the platinum level. We are moving forward. If we get any of what was classic or what we call bronze, as those become empty, which to be honest with you, only 1 of those has become vacant in the last 90 days. What we're finding is people are just not, if they're in those units, they're just not moving. And we certainly at this time, right now, do not want to kick anybody out so we can keep the income healthy. But as we get bronze units, we will move forward with the rehab on those units so we can get a healthy rental bump. We have paused the gold to platinum because we just were not getting that rent bump. We may have been getting a 1 or 2% rent increase, but that was just not enough to justify spending anywhere from $5,000 to $14,000 on that rehab. So we put those on hold until the market conditions improve for the property, at which point we'll pick that right back up and start rehabbing more of those gold units to the platinum level to get our rental increases as we need. Southwest, what a great rebound month. Our management company has discussions about this literally every day, every week. And we kind of thought our best guess was that September was going to be the month where we saw some slippage. And that was because, again, we knew that the extra unemployment benefits are running out, charity benefits are running out, stimulus funds were not forthcoming as many people thought from the federal government. But I attribute that. We think Southwest just hit theirs a month early. You can see there was a tremendous slide in August. And again, look down at your rental delinquency and you can see why. If we could collect 90% of that, then that income would have been back up where it needed to be. But great job by the staff. Great job of using the eviction process as at least a card that we can use to, a hammer that we can use to hopefully make some improvements at the property. But as you can see, occupancy remained strong. Income was back up almost in the mid 60s. Expenses properly managed in the mid 30s, getting your net operating income back to just under the 30K level. And again, just look at that rent delinquency. This also is a property that's a little bit of a challenge. But again, we're sending a very strong message to those people that they are not fully protected as they were under CARES Act, and they must make a good faith effort to continue making payments. And if they do not, then we will move forward with the options the law provides to us. 1019, I'm never going to get tired of talking about 1019, just a great success story. You can see occupancy remains strong. I do want to point out here, or I feel the need to point out here, that you see a steady rise in income in June and July. And those of you who have been part of these calls in the past, you know that we were going from around 70% occupancy when Dark Court Management took over in early January to about mid 90s that we were able to achieve by the month of June. What that does, it means we had a lot of new leases. We had a lot of new move-ins. And what that does is provide you with a lot of what we call other income. That's your application fees, your admin fees, your risk fees, all of those things that are associated with new move-ins. So that's the reason you see a steady incline up to a high of just under over 138,000 in July. The reason I'm pointing it out is I don't want you to think that August and September are really a slippage. This is just a function of the fact that now we're fully occupied, just about fully occupied. We don't have all of that other fee income that is associated with new leases moving in. And this is where we expect 1019 to kind of settle in the high 20s to 130 to low 130s is where you're going to see that settle in as kind of the norm for that property. The same with expenses. You see a steady rise in June through July and even August. That's us having a lot of make-ready expenses to get these people moved in which also came with the additional income. But as you see now, we're not getting that other income because we don't have the new, we don't have as many apartments vacant. So your expenses also going down. Again, very healthy net operating income in the mid 70s in September. And again, a great job by the staff there at 1019 with rental delinquency, closed out July as a 0, 3,700 in August and 3,300 in September. Also just want to point out, as I never get tired of repeating this, but the refinance process at 1019, those of you who are in the 1019 project already know this, but that refinance process was completed in August, and a return to the partners of 27% of their original investment was distributed to them in August. An additional 7 to 8% return of your capital will occur in 12 months once the principal and interest escrows that we are required to put up with the refinance. Once those are released to us, then those also will be distributed back to the partners for an additional 7 to 8% return. And in addition, 1019 has been added to the ever increasing list of properties for distributions. And the first distribution for 1019 went out in September. So those of you at 1019 should already know that. But again, just a great success story. We always had tremendous faith in 1019 and knew with the proper management we could get it to where it needed to be. And we're really proud, not only for our sake, but for our DGRE partners, that has turned out to be a really great success. Valley Center, I'm going to point out one thing here again. You see the income in June and July and even August, increase, 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 and then a dip in September. This is the exact same thing we see at 1019. It's not because of new move-ins, but it is because of an additional source of income that we were able to collect in June, July, and August. But now that we've collected the vast majority of that income, we don't have any more of that extra income to collect. And this is where you're going to see Valley Center settle in the low to mid 1-teens. So September's a really good showing. That's about where we expect it to be moving forward. And when I say that, let me explain what those additional income is. When we bought the property on behalf of our partners, we assumed about $52,000 of debt. That was additional debt that the previous management company had billed to the tenants, but had not yet collected from the tenants. And that is what they call their CAM, or their Common Area Maintenance Reconciliation charges, from 2019. So we've spent the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months trying to collect that money back from as many tenants as we possibly could. And we're thrilled to announce that the vast majority of that was collected. The other great thing about it is, as you know, Darwin and the team negotiated rent and or income guarantees from the seller for the first 6 months of Valley Center. So September ended that 6-month period. So I wanted to let you know that I submitted just this past couple of days ago, there's been $22,000 in total in either rent or CAM reconciliation charges that has not been collected in the previous 6 months, and those have been now reported back to the previous owner, and as part of the agreement, we expect to be reimbursed for that amount. So good. Again, the expenses managed appropriately, healthy NOI, and again, we expect that delinquency to drop now. Also want to let everybody know that the lobby remodel has been completed. As you know, we had a huge CapEx project there, and the lobby, which is kind of the centerpiece of the CapEx remodel, has been completed. It is absolutely beautiful. It is just a couple of finishing touches there. I really, again, if you're in the area, I know I've repeated this, but if you're in the area, come by and see us. We'd love to show you around not only our offices and the new Darwin German Real Estate Training Center, but love to show off the building and the improvements we made there as well. Villa Creek. Again, great news in regards to Villa Creek. I'll just hit the highlights at the bottom because it kind of explains what's going on at the top. But as you all know, the last time we talked, we were just about to complete the tornado rebuild. It has now been totally 100% completed. We have received all final inspections and our certificate of occupancy, and all 14 of the previously down units because of the tornado are now occupied units. We have received our loss of insurance proceeds from the insurance company. We are now just awaiting the final disbursement of the physical claim, which is a significant amount of money. So we're still waiting for that. It's not unusual for the insurance company to delay, but everything has been filed. We expect to have that soon. So really what that shows you is that June, July, August, the income was steady in the low to mid 160s, but you see a good jump now in September because now we have those 14 units back online. All of them are occupied. We expect that to rise next month into the 175, mid 170s, even approaching 180 level. So thrilled with that performance as it comes back where it needed to be. Properly managed expenses with, again, a very healthy NOI of high 77, just under 78 for the month of September. And again, I can't say enough about the staff there, about Vicki and Diana and how they're managing the Villa Creek. Look at that, 4 straight months of closing out Villa Creek with 0 delinquency. That is just unheard of in the industry with what's going on with the pandemic, but just kudos to them for making that possible. So great job there. Our final property, 2405 at Park Row, formerly known as Greenhouse. Again, just steady performance, income in the low 30s, high 20s. Again, bounce back up to over 30 in September. Has taken a dip in occupancy, working hard on the marketing efforts to make sure that we can improve that. And that is, as you know, as you evict people and or encourage them to get out, then your occupancy drops. And we had some people there that needed to happen on. It has happened, and that's the reason you see the occupancy drop there. Expenses, well managed. Again, net operating income, we need to get that up, but we'll be able to do that as we increase the occupancy and increase the income and hold the expenses steady. And again, it's no secret. Again, you can look down at the rent delinquency. If you were to add those to the income number, you'd get a better idea of about where that would average, which would be in the low 30s on income, which is where that property should be. So again, nice bounce back in September and performing well. Okay, here's the funnest part of the night for me. Darwin German Real Estate, current portfolio distributions. I am happy to show you guys a picture of the September mailbox money deliveries. As you saw back in July when we last met, this is Darwin out delivering those mailbox money checks. Lots of checks cut, maybe sent to you direct deposit, but here's a list too of all of the properties that received a distribution check in September. So again, congratulations to those of you who are part of these properties. Amber Vista, Brookside, Crossings, Halinani, Gold Creek, Kainani, Riverbend, 1019 for the first time added, and Valley Center. So again, that list continues to grow. Seems like every time we get on here, we get another property that's added to the list. That's good news for everyone. So again, congratulations immensely to those of you who are in these properties. We'll continue to work hard on the other properties to see that they can join this list. But again, congratulations. It's one of the greatest things we do at the end of the month is set those distributions and instruct Dillard to cut those checks and get them out to our valuable partners. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Darwin, who's going to talk about what's on the horizon for DGRE.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us. We have about 100 people online. That's very nice. We appreciate you taking some time out Tuesday night to go ahead and listen to us talk about what's going on in our portfolio. And Brian and Vicki and all the on-site staff have been doing a great job. You can see what's happening. If it weren't for this whole coronavirus shutdown, we would be doing even better. But still, we're still sending out distributions every month on most of the properties and doing a great job. And again, that's the hard work of Brian and Vicki on the management side. So very proud of them and everybody that we have on site. On the management side, I want to go ahead and throw something else. There's something that's been bothering me for years, and I was going to go ahead and start a separate company to go ahead and do this. And instead, we ended up finding a company that can provide this service for us. And we are actually going to start reporting all of our residents on, just like they do for your credit card and your mortgage, reporting that to the credit bureaus as far as their payment history. The nice thing about that is, hey, if they're paying on time, they get a nice, good, solid report, and that helps lower their insurance rates, automobile loan rates, credit card rates, and even helps them qualify for a house. Not that we want to encourage that. But on the flip side is it actually gives some accountability for the people that decide not to pay rent. because generally speaking, when people move, they're not reported to credit until they move out and owe money. Well, now the first time they don't pay, it's a 30-day late. If they don't pay again, then it's 60. If they don't pay late, then it's 90. If they don't pay again, 120 days. And that stays on their credit report for 7 years. And I think that will help quite a bit. Some of the things that we have coming up, some of you might have seen an email of a small value add play that we're doing. And that's just a small deal, value add. It's going to be about a 2-year deal. And if you haven't seen that, then I don't know if it's went out yet or not, but some people have seen that. It's going to be a very small capital raise. It'll fill up in probably about 2 hours once we get the full information out there. We also are working on a couple other deals. One is an off-market deal where I know the owner, and just like Corners, I knew the owner on the Corners and worked that deal off-market. And we're working on another one that's an off-market deal. So I don't want to say anything specific about that until that comes to fruition. And there is another property that is that was being marketed that we preempted and got pulled off the market. We're negotiating a contract on, so I can't tell you anything specifically about that. But bottom line is we have a couple of deals coming out. They are going to be 506Bs for our partners that are not accredited. That way they can get into those. There's been a dry spell until the Corners for them on that. And we're also still scouring every property, and Julian is pulling his hair out while analyzing all of these different properties so that we can find something that makes sense. And anything that makes sense, we will move after, and still looking for the off-market deals and things like that. So we do have some more deals in the works and can't tell you too much about those. And we also have another deal that we're planning on closing in January. That'll roll out in November also. And that one is a yield play. There's some value add component to it, but it's mainly a yield deal. And so you can watch the emails so that you can see what's coming out when, because as of today, I cannot share any of those properties with you, but they are all on, they're all teed up and ready to go. And anything else that, we've got this pipeline working, and when any of those end up hitting, that's when we move ahead. So we look forward to having everybody as partners and making everybody money, letting them get the mailbox money. And we're just here to serve you, take care of your investments, and make sure to get you into good quality properties. And we're so looking forward to finally having in-person meetings now that we have the space for it, once all of this craziness subsides. So that's what's coming on, what's on the horizon for us. A couple of fun things. I know there's more, but we'll share that later. So now we can open it up to questions and answers.
Yeah, let's do that, Darwin. If you don't mind, I'm gonna read the questions and I'll take them or I'll throw them to you. Okay. My apologies again at the very beginning where I didn't share my screen, but it's about the first 5 questions where, hey, show me your screen. So we're good to go there. The first question is, do you know if any of the lawsuits filed against the government regarding eviction has any positive results? I'll take that one. We do know that there were several lawsuits filed against the government, actually filed against the CDC. There is strong contention in the legal world that what the CDC did in order issuing their declaration was not legal, that they do not have the authority to do what they did. However, it is currently the law of the land that we have to follow. And we can tell you that we expect any day now, in fact, we've been expecting it for any day. There are several huge organizations, including the National Apartment Association, that filed an injunction to stop the CDC declaration from being in effect. We thought there would have been some resolution to that by now, but it has just not happened. So as of today, there have been no rulings in regard to the lawsuits that have been filed. We'll keep you updated. In fact, as soon as we hear something, we'll likely send out an email or put together a quick video like we did last time and get you all the information. Next question is, are we able to verify that new tenants or new applicants were not evicted from their last apartment due to COVID non-payment of rent. Again, I'll take that. In short, and to be totally honest with you, the answer is no. We're never going to be able to verify completely, but we do have some tools in our or some arrows in our quiver that we can use, and there are some telltale signs. For example, I was just talking to Jeanette, our other property supervisor on our team. We're talking today about the fact that we're having an influx of people that are saying, we say, when do you want to move in? Today. I want to move in today. Can I move in this morning? Can I move in this afternoon? Okay, that's a good indication to us that, hey, something's wrong. Typically, if someone is looking for a new apartment, they're not in that big a hurry. They've got a week or 10 days, or they're asking for the following of the next month. So that's a good indication for us to probe a little bit further and make sure we ask a lot of questions. In all honesty, there's not a lot we can do. I can assure you of this. Certainly, DoorCorp has a list, and we share it with every other property. So no one is going to leave. Someone that has burned us at another property, has been evicted, is not going to leave a DoorCorp property and go to another DoorCorp property and be accepted. We can promise you that. If they've moved out of another property, again, we're being very diligent on our application process and our qualifications process to make sure that we can handle that as best we can. But in all honesty, there's really there's no master list out there that said these people just got evicted. And even when we check with the credit agencies, which we have the ability to do, it's not acting fast enough, because again, these people are getting evicted the end of, say, July or August, and they want to move in the month of September. The process and the reporting process just can't work that quickly. Next question, can we find out who the malcontents are and not renew their leases? Not sure I understand the question totally, but I assure you that if they have not been paying their rent to us, we are not renewing their leases. And as I said just before, if there are telltale signs that we can use to weed out those new applicants as well. Darwin, I'm going to throw this one to you. It says, is Ridgemar for sale?
Ridgemar is not being actively marketed. You saw how the performance dipped a little bit, and we're getting back up there in this COVID environment. It's teed up with the broker and ready to go, but because of the challenges that we've had, and we wanted to prepare it for sale better than it was, that is now almost complete. So we are getting close on that one, and we're at a point now that it's going to be better to wait another month before Thanksgiving and rolling it out then and close it in January, so we can put off a tax liability for another year. So that would be helpful. But this COVID issue has really slowed things down.
Yes, it has. Okay, next question. With the announcement today of the stimulus being pushed out until after the election, what is DGRE's perspective on impact, if any? Rowan, I'll let you take the first shot at that, and then I'll talk about it from a property management standpoint.
Well, as far as the acquisition side, it's right now there's so much money chasing deals, interest rates are so low, there's so much demand out there to get the investments that it's not affecting anything on the buying and selling side. We thought there would be, so back in March, April, May, there was a big slowdown. Everybody pulled their chips back off the table to adjust to see what was happening. But there were still enough buyers out there that sellers are saying, hey, I'm not coming down on price. As a matter of fact, prices actually stayed the same or went up a little bit because concurrently interest rates dropped, and we weren't seeing the big drop in income like we thought we were. We were prepared for a 30% drop if need be, and that didn't happen. So everybody's happy about that. On the management side, however, there's additional details. I'll let you hit that, Brian.
Yeah, as I talked a little bit about during the presentation, we did see a slight dip at 3 properties in September, but the good news is it was not portfolio wide. The other properties were either really, really close to where they were the previous month or exceeded the previous month's performance. What we do believe is that, well, we know that the unemployment, extra unemployment benefits are having an effect, and we attribute some of the September at those 3 properties to that. There is a tightening of the charitable money or the state and federal assistance money because of the stimulus not forthcoming. But what I would tell you is really the the biggest reason, as I pointed out in Brookside and Riverbend, we really attribute the September decrease in income there to the organized efforts by some tenants to mislead the rest of the tenants and telling them that we do not have to evict. I would tell you that I feel, there still may be some slight dips, but I think now that we can send a strong message like we did at Riverbend last week and actually setting out 6 of the people who had not paid in over 6 months, I think we can continue to send that message. The judges have been, as you see, 23 of 30 evictions have been adjudicated in our favor. So I believe that is sending a strong message, and those who may be erroneously under the perception that they cannot be evicted, I think the message is getting across really quick. So I don't see any precipitous drop. I don't see a big drop. It just may be a leveling out and just a slight decline, if any, moving forward. We don't see any reason to believe that it's going to be a big issue. Okay, will the DGRE portal be updated to include all the monthly financials? I tell you what, I'm gonna get you, David, do you know the answer to that? Or I'll get an answer, I'll send the question to Brian and get it out to everybody.
We don't post the, they should be posted to your individual account for the properties that you're invested in. If they're not, shoot me an email and we'll figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, you should have access to those for the properties that you're in.
Yeah, any property you're invested in should have the monthly reports posted. And if you're not receiving that, email me, david@darwingerman.com.
Thank you, David. Question here: how are you guys able to bring deals to us when I don't see any good deals? When I don't see anyone else bringing deals to the masses?
We can't tell you that.
I'm gonna let you handle it, Darwin.
Well, let me expand on that. There are still lots of properties out there, and I'll give you an example. There's 2 properties that I was looking at prior to them hitting the market. One is Eagles Point, and the other is Wooded Creek, being sold by Madera. Now, those 2, I think one of them is a Sumrock group, and I think the other one is a Lifestyles group that are buying those that I had the first look at. Now, I passed on those because the price was not quite where I wanted it to be at to make sense for me. However, there were somebody with Sumrock and with Lifestyles that put the other 2 under contract at a higher price than what I was looking at or that I was willing to pay. And those came out, and if you look at their numbers, I'm sure if you look at their packages, that those are going to still show good returns and things like that. We are extra conservative on our numbers because there's always problems that come up, and so we still are finding deals. Most of them have been off-market deals, is the ones that we've been able to find because of relationships that we have. But yes, just like it was 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, there are still deals out there, and we look at 40 properties before we find one that we want to make a run at. And there's a few less buyers right now, and the people that are selling their properties, a lot of them don't want to go through the whole marketing process right now with where we are with COVID and the performance, the same type of thing here. So they don't really want to market them. So there's a lot of off-market or pocket listings out there that we get to look at and review. And I don't know why other sponsors are not putting out, because I know that they're working other deals and putting other deals under contract. So I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I've seen that there's other people out there buying as well. And I'm sure their numbers and their PPMs and performance show an attractive return with their underwriting.
Okay, next question. It says, I missed the update on the corners. I am invested. Will you please send me the update? Well, let me tell you up front, we did not have an update on the corners tonight, simply because we've only been on site now for 6.5 days. We're thrilled with what we found there. Having said that, when we have our next monthly meeting, we'll have the first monthly financial picture of the corners. Also note too that if anybody missed anything as part of this presentation, within a couple of days, by the end of the week, you will have access to this recorded meeting. A link will be sent out to all of you so you can review all of this if you'd like. Okay, some of these apartments had a reduction in monthly expenses. Can you give us, I don't see the second part of that question, but I'm assuming you want kind of an answer as to how we were able to reduce monthly expenses. It's just good financial management, to be honest with you. We take a look at the beginning of each month. There are some some things like property taxes and mortgage, and really payroll and utility. Well, not even payroll's not really included in that, but utilities, those are fairly constant. Having said that, keep in mind that some of our properties are all bills paid or flat fee billing, and we are seeing a reduction in some of the utility costs because we're going from high energy usage in the summer down a little bit. We are making every effort to look at every discretionary spending, and that would include anything from payroll to office supplies, you name it. We just go through and make sure that we're managing those accordingly, so that if we're going to have a slight dip in income, I would also like to see a slight dip in expenses to keep that NOI healthy. So I hope that answers your question. If
well,
it did, yeah, go ahead.
It really does get down to management that's looking at every detail, that's looking at every expense, because especially when we've had third-party management, they didn't care as much as far as what the expenses are, or even the income. And we're also putting in Yield Star on this to help increase our income, and just doing a better job overall at managing the expenses. We've invested a whole lot in training the employees and all the managers and the maintenance on how to save money and what to do and how to do it. And so we're reinvesting back into the properties with training to help all of this go as well as possible. And I don't think third-party management is ever as good as managing yourself. And when we have a great team like we do in a very deep bench, then that allows us to operate these properties in a much more efficient manner.
Thank you, Darwin. I have a question from Jeff. It says, malcontents being those spreading the word that others need not pay should pay more. I agree with you, Jeff. Wish we could control that. What I can tell you is the same thing I told you during the presentation. We're going to send a very strong message. Those people are being misled, and they will only be misled for a short time, because we're sending educational information to them, let them know exactly what the law allows us to do, and that we are moving forward with that. So I agree with you. Darwin, I'm going to throw this to you. It says, hi, it's my first time attending your meeting. Looked really great. How is the presented NOI translated to profit?
How is the translated NOI? One more time.
How is the presented NOI? So the NOI we're showing tonight, how does that translate to profit? I guess really it just addresses, we need to talk about how the valuation works, I would say.
Okay, how that translates to profit. And there's a couple of different avenues. One is NOI is what everybody looks at, because you take the NOI and divide that by the prevailing cap rate, and you can come up with the value of a property. Now, that NOI, we have to subtract out debt service and ownership fees, which is asset management, CPA accounting, things like that, and the reserve replacements that we have to make. For example, we pay a certain amount. Part of our debt service is a reserve amount that's paid to the lender. The lender then holds that amount. When we replace carpets, appliances, if there's a replacement item that's a capital improvement item like that, we pay for that and then get that reimbursed through that other amount. that will come up with a net income. Now, it's a little bit confusing because that net income, that's where we come up with how we can distribute funds. We look at that amount. We don't distribute the full amount of the net income because if you look at it, it's net operating income. That's from the operations of the property. The below, we call the rest of it below the line, which is the debt service and other non-operating expense items. We'll come up with a net income number. And what we try and do is mail out about 80% of that each month so that we're building up additional cash reserves for the future, depending on what might hit. And then about twice a year, we try and do a larger distribution based on those numbers. So there's more to it than what we show on there, because that's just the operations of the property from a management point of view. And that does not directly correlate, because then you need to know what debt service are and things like that. So all that is in the financials that we provide each month. So you can see what the bottom line net income is. Now, for those of you who are partners and listening in and looking at the financials, you're saying, wait a minute, that doesn't exactly look right. Well, there's another aspect to that. I look at this as being two different buckets. There's the operating bucket and there's the CapEx bucket. And so we have a capital improvement budget for each one of these properties when we buy them. For example, the Corners was what, $1.3 million? How much was the Corners? You know that, Brian, off the top of your head?
Yeah, 1.1 million.
Okay, so at the Corners, as we do the capital improvement items, which might be exterior paint or driveway repairs or interior repairs, we've got an extra $1.1 million in another bucket that is part of that below the line expense. And that really skews the numbers. So because all those items skew the numbers so much below the line, that we're showing you the net operating income to show how the properties themselves are performing. In the monthly financials, there are supplemental reports that Dillard provides that actually shows the full amount of all of the accounting. Our packages are 60, 70 pages each month with absolutely everything that goes on the property: general ledger, balance sheet, income statement, more reports than you can possibly imagine to analyze exactly how it's performing. And the bottom line is most people look at that and say, okay, did I get a check this month? If so, great. I don't really care about it, but I didn't get a check. Why? And then they dig in, is realistically how it ends up happening. But we want to make sure that we keep on performing, that the properties are sending out distributions, and that we're building up our cash so that if there is a crunch time like we had with COVID, then we have enough cash available to maintain and hold on to the property without having any problems.
Thank you, Darwin. I'm going to correct something I just said, Darwin. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line, wrong property. At the Corners, our CapEx budget is just over 500,000. So don't want to mislead any of you Corners partners out there.
Yeah, and because it's a real clean,
$5,900 a door.
All interior.
Yep. Really good question here. New tenant selection. Do managers simply call previous landlord to inquire tenants about wanting to move in? The answer to that is yes, but you have to take that with a grain of salt. So really good question, but let me tell you what happens. When somebody that is under eviction orders, they have not been moved out yet, because even when we get the judgment against them, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 weeks before their set out date is set by the court. That's when they go out and start looking for property. What you find is, if yes, Mrs. Smith came in, yes, let me have your previous landlord's information, and you call them. You say, hey, how was Miss Smith as a tenant? Oh, she was a terrific tenant. She paid on time every month. You'll love to have her. She's an asset to the community. And the reason they're doing that and not always being honest is because they want her out. They don't want her to find any reason to stay where she currently is. So we just have to take that with a grain of salt. So it's not quite that simple.
But that's not all we do. We also run a credit and criminal background check and look at their debt to income, look at their credit score. We look at all of that. The calling of the current landlord is only one step in that process. Just like Brian said, it's usually not reliable information.
Okay, another couple of questions here, and we'll end it up. How will tenants be notified about how their payment history is being recorded? We'll actually send them a letter. Cynthia, to answer your question, we'll send them a letter and let them know of the process. There currently already is a program in place where they can opt in to another company where they can achieve the same thing. Most of the tenants that do that, which is a very low percentage, by the way, 2-3% of tenants actually opt into a program. It's a third-party program where they can opt in, and it does help them build their credit. They can do that, but that does nothing for the people who are not paying, because it doesn't get reported until they get evicted and or moved out. So we will educate our tenants on all properties that this is a great program. And in fact, we will, in all likelihood, I can't give you the exact amount, but we will charge them a little bit for that service, enough to make sure that we're covering the cost of the program. For those tenants that are evicted for non-payment, are any of those funds owed to us collected, or are the debts sold to a third-party collection agency? Well, some of both. If they've gone all the way to eviction and they've gotten, sometimes when people get evicted, they all of a sudden come back and we might get some money. They're trying to work with us, but in all likelihood, if they've been evicted, we're not going to get any more money from them directly. We do give it to a third-party group, a debt collection agency, and they do make an attempt to collect, and then we get a portion of that back. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to make this the last one. Idea for thought: create a database of people who do not pay. Ask other apartment owners for their list and share yours. Hopefully everyone will have a massive list of unpaid tenants. Better yet, spread the news via word of mouth and create a bigger list. Great suggestion. It's something we've definitely looked at. It's very, very difficult to get everybody on board, because again, what you have is, again, as some people are kicking other people out, they really do not necessarily want to be totally honest about kicking people out, because they want to give that tenant every ability to escape and get off of their property. But great suggestion. It's something we've looked at. Not sure about the practical application as to whether we do that, but we'll continue to think about ways to do that.
Well, there's also legal ramifications
Yep.
that that's kind of a blacklist. They get put onto a list of like that, and then sharing that, there's certain legal ramifications that could put us in jeopardy with anybody that shares any of that information in that forum.
Okay, we've reached the end of our questions. I just want to say thank again, everyone, for giving us a portion of your Tuesday night. We take the trust that you give us, we take it very seriously. As Darwin always says, and you'll hear everybody in the team say, all of our decisions are based on what's right for the investor. So again, thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed the presentation. And Darwin, any closing words?
No, again, thank you so much. It is an honor that you invest with us, and we do not take that lightly, which is why we try and be so transparent and try and give you all the information, have these meetings, have educational meetings. We are doing video podcasts. Hopefully you're seeing our newsletter that's coming out, giving you more information on what's going on. We would encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel with that, because that helps us out in the long run. Like us on Facebook and all the other social media areas. But take a look at our every Thursday we send out an email, and it's got a lot of good information on there. And we're also open. Any questions you have, please send them over to us. And we are here for you. I'm going to make it sound like Southwest Airlines. We know you have a choice when you fly, and we thank you for we know you have a choice in where to invest your capital, and we do everything we can to make sure that you are taken care of as best as you possibly can be. And we thank you for that trust. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And on your screen there, David Tuttle or Jeremy, they're in charge of investor relations, and they are your go-to people with any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, and they're also the gatekeepers to help get you into any potential investments. So reach out to them, say hello, stop by the office, and love to see you, and can't wait to see you in person again when we can do these in person. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. See you next time.